Councilwoman York, Councilman Baker.
Yes.
We are in closed session. We shall return. Everybody good? Yeah, you ready? Yep.
I'm here.
Patty, is that you?
That's me. Thank you for asking.
So, hey everybody, welcome to the Monday, June 9th County Council meeting. Before we get that started, I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to go back into open session.
Second. Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
We are back in session. All right, so as we started off, welcome to the Monday, June 9th real start of the meeting as opposed to the fake one that I just did. We're going to start off tonight by doing our invocation that is done by Carissa Figgins, who is at Harvester Christian Church, and Dave Hammond will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Welcome back.
Hi. Thank you. If you're comfortable, will you bow with me? Hey God, we come before you today with gratitude for the opportunity to serve the people of St. Charles County. Thank you for the gift of community and for the trust placed in these leaders to steward it wisely. We ask for your guidance in this meeting, grant clarity of mind, humility of heart, and a spirit of cooperation to each person here. May differences be met with respect. May every decision be made with justice, compassion, and the well-being of our neighbors in mind. Bless this council with wisdom to lead with peace, discernment that leads to action, and courage to do what is right, especially when it is not easy. Unite us in this shared purpose, to build a county where all can flourish. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please call the roll.
Councilman Swanson.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel. Councilman Hammond.
Here.
Councilman Elam.
Here.
Councilman Hollander.
Here.
Councilwoman York.
Here.
Councilman Baker.
Here.
We will start off tonight with a public presentation. Melinda McElhaney is here. She is the CCRB Director. Community Needs Assessment is the topic that she's doing. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
I think this is the first time you've been with us, isn't it?
You know what? I was actually here this month last year. I had just been hired at CCRB, and it was, I came with Bruce Sawatsky, my predecessor, who
Bruce
you
did
all
your
did a
introduction.
special proclamation for him.
Yeah.
And so I was here. I was taking pictures that night. So.
Gotcha.
Yes. All right. How do I? Okay. It's up, and then just press this right here.
Yes.
All right. And let's see, is it going to go?
They'll come out and help you.
Do a shortcut.
Did I break it already?
We're going to do a shortcut.
Okay, I can do that. The down and up, no?
We'll let them take care of it.
I broke it, I apologize.
I don't think you did.
Technology's not my friend.
That is strange. Let's see, maybe we just need to, There you go.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Well, good evening again. My name is Melinda McElhaney, and I'm the Executive Director of the Community and Children's Resource Board of St. Charles County, or CCRB for short. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you for your ongoing and continued support of CCRB's important work. I'd like to share information with you about the CCRB as well as our new Community Needs Assessment. Okay, I press it down. Okay, CCRB is a political subdivision of St. Charles County that was created in 2004 by county voters. Through an 1/8 of a cent sales tax, we fund children's mental health and substance use treatment services for kids throughout the county. This year, we're investing up to $15.5 million in 69 programs at 38 different agencies. We contract with local nonprofits to provide youth mental health and substance use treatment services to youth who are age 19 and younger, their parents, caregivers, and families, as well as professionals who serve children, such as teachers and first responders. Our funded services fall into 4 general categories: prevention, crisis stabilization, early intervention, and treatment. In 2023, programs funded by CCRB served over 100,000 youth, 5,000 parents and families, and 2,500 professionals. Further, 81% of school-age kids in the county received at least one prevention service funded by CCRB. That's an incredibly significant reach. And 12.5% of youth were served through a CCRB-funded direct service. Our services reached every single zip code, gender, and race throughout the county. Evaluation of these programs show that they were highly effective in creating better outcomes for our community's kids. Our new 2023 Community Needs Assessment explored how children and youth in our community are faring. We have 4 reports that range from in-depth data and analysis to the Cliff Notes version of all of that information. All of these reports are available on our website, and each of you has a copy of our executive summary, which is the really high Cliff Notes version. But if you really like data and tables, I encourage you to go out and read one of our longer reports. Our needs assessment explored 4 areas of child and family well-being. While CCRB mainly focuses on the behavioral and mental health arena, we know that all 4 of these are interrelated and impact each other, which is why we look at them. Our needs assessment showed several areas of strength when it comes to our county's kids that we really should celebrate. I'm going to highlight just a few of them, but again, our reports go into much greater in-depth information about everything going well and where our challenges are for our kids. So first, rates of substantiated child abuse and neglect have dropped 34% since 2004. St. Charles County has the 2nd lowest rate in the St. Louis region, and our rates are lower than that of the state. In 2023, 41 youth were admitted to substance use treatment programs in the county, representing a 57% decrease just since 2009. Overall, poverty in St. Charles County was 5% in 2022, compared to 13% across all of Missouri. Further, infant mortality has dropped 25% since 2004, which is lower than the state rate and the 2nd best in the region. Finally, high school graduation rates have improved to 94% in 2022, which is higher than the Missouri average of 91%. As good as this is, the data also revealed several emerging issues, particularly when it comes to youth self-injury. It rose from 11% in 2012 to 21.5% in 2022. And youth suicide rates have risen 13% since 2003. Further, 9% of youth in 2022 in our county reported having planned a suicide attempt in the past year, while 13% had seriously considered suicide. Those are not fun numbers to share with you, and they're showing a shocking increase in a very short period of time. Providers also report that more kids are presenting with higher anxiety, depression, difficulty controlling their emotions, and decreased social skills. Providers also report that children are presenting with more intense symptoms, which leads to longer time in care and higher demands on staff. The data also shows an increase in the number of cost-burdened households. Nearly half of renters in St. Charles County spend 30% or more of their income on gross household costs in 2022. And this is a key indicator that's used to predict the risk of homelessness. Our rate of 50% is higher than the state rate of 46%. While down significantly since 2004, we've seen a recent uptick in violent juvenile offenses since 2019. And while still strong, student attendance has been decreasing since 2011. And finally, providers are struggling to respond to these changing needs due to staff turnover as well as staff burnout. CCRB is taking this needs assessment very seriously. We'll continue to invest in a wide spectrum of mental health and substance use services for kids to ensure that those areas of strength continue to be strong. We don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. We're sharing the needs assessment and with community leaders such as all of you tonight in the hopes of increasing your awareness of the strengths as well as the challenges facing our community's youth. And we want to, in the days and months ahead, to convene community stakeholders around these emerging concerns and discuss what can we do proactively. We invite you, as a part of our community leaders, to help us explore these emerging issues further and to share the needs assessment with your staff and with your constituents. And finally, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but continue to buy local, because every time you buy something in the county, you're helping to create brighter futures for our community's kids and families. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? That was a great presentation.
All
Thank
right,
you very
great.
much.
Thank you again for your
time. And welcome back.
Thanks.
That will move us to public hearing. Our first is the citizens' input on housing needs, which piggybacks nicely on your report, 2025 CDBG Consolidated Plan.
Arnie Dienoff.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. Looks like do we have one person online also?
We do.
Okay. I talked to you last week, and I did some homework investigation and asking the questions of the administrator of our Consolidated Community Development Block Grant fund that we have. We have a couple municipalities that are missing from the equation, and I would ask you as council members to reach out to those areas. Number one is the city of New Melle. They failed to pass the required local ordinance to participate in the Consolidated County Community Development Block Grant Fund. Also, the cities of West Dalton and Portage de Sioux also failed to pass a local ordinance to participate. Now, of course, because they're flood communities, they will not qualify for home buyouts, rehabilitation of existing homes because they're within a floodplain. But they should be part of our consolidated efforts to do a truly consolidated urban county plan. Now, I see Director Lycum is not here tonight. Hopefully, Director Ludwig can answer some questions about notifying or contacting the City of O'Fallon to get them to truly join the consolidated plan to save the 20% in administrative overhead and administrative fees and expenses, so that can go to better help our citizens who are most vulnerable and most needy of our community with the various programs in terms of helping them sustain themselves in their own homes, avoid homelessness from losing a home, emergency repairs such as air conditioning, heating, windows, hot water tank heaters, those type of things. And it'd be kind of nice to see if we reached out to O'Fallon to try to consolidate and join those forces to save that 20% in administrative and overhead that I just spoke about. I believe, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that we're on the right public hearing. There's two public hearings. The first one is the plan for this fiscal year. Is that correct?
This is the action plan.
The action plan. Okay. The first one is the Home Improvement Program, Section 570.202, subsection A, subsection 1. And my question is $7,500 enough for a 0% interest 5-year forgivable loan to qualifying residents eligible based on income, age, and disability? That's one thing that I haven't come to that realization. I just want you to kind of think about. The next issue is the homeless prevention program, which is keeping people in their homes, which would be foreclosure for people who pay a mortgage and for rental assistance, and that's section 570.201, subsection E.
It's okay.
Which addresses homelessness. We have a community action plan, and I would say that we need to offer this county-wide. And I also would like to see some general funding of the general from the tax levies go to help this fund in addition to the federal government. It costs a lot more money in terms of social programs and social help and assistance when people are homeless and not getting the services that they need. And so I think that we need to try to prevent that. The transportation program, which would be section 570.201E, I would also ask that we offer this county-wide and take in more additional funding from the county general fund besides what the federal government is giving. This is a transportation program. As you all know, our aging population with the baby boomers, we're going to need increased transportation to doctors' offices, to personal needs, to grocery stores, to their loved ones in retirement homes, because as you get to a certain age, people come to the realization that they're doing the right thing, giving up their driver's license, giving up their keys to their vehicle, so they don't hurt or impact somebody else out in the community because they've gotten to that point in their life that they can't drive anymore. And we need to be cognizant and start funding that. St. Peter's Community Service for lawn maintenance, again, it targets elderly people who need this assistance. And they're putting in $6,500. I think we should make this available county-wide, and I think we should put in county funds to help out our senior citizens and our elderly residents and citizens. Senior services, which would be Meals on Wheels to the homebound, and that's becoming a realization county-wide. And I could tell you story after story of people who are being homebound, who are elderly, and $10,000 the City of St. Peter's is putting forward towards Meals on Wheels program. It's being provided by the group called Aging Ahead. And I believe that we need to look at this more county-wide and offer this program to make sure that senior citizens aren't going hungry, that they're not choosing between buying prescription drugs and putting food on the table and feeding themselves by taking care of themselves. The next issue is the coordinated entry of the homeless. As you all know, we have a severe problem, especially in the City of St. Charles and surrounding areas of unincorporated county, with homeless camps showing up almost on a weekly and monthly basis. The City of St. Charles, I think, with the county, need to address this. We need to look at keeping people out of not being homeless. And $30,000, it's causing a lot of havoc and a lot of problems with the safety of neighborhoods and safety of communities, and we really need to look at this issue. There's also pockets throughout the county that are homeless encampments are going up, unfortunately, and I don't want our county to turn out to be like Seattle, like Phoenix, Arizona, like Los Angeles, California, where we have people living in tents on sidewalks, blocking sidewalks, living in our parks. Of course, the United States Supreme Court decided that in an Oregon case, in Grants Pass, Oregon, versus the United States government. But we really need to find out what the issues of homeless is. In the next public hearing, I'm going to talk about where we're taking mental health assistance money, which is crucially needed on the streets for homeless people. We're taking that money away and we're providing it for other issues, which will be a weatherization program. And so that's my testimony. I hope you take it to heart. We really need to make sure that the funds are being spent wisely, effectively, and on behalf of being cognizant of taxpayer money and a fiduciary responsibility. And I'd like to hear from Mr. Ludwig, the Assistant Director of Administration, if we've contacted O'Fallon about joining the Urban Consolidated Community Development Block Grant program. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Not for that one.
Hang tight. So that'll close that public hearing and move us on to the next citizens input public hearing amending CDBG CB program.
Arnie Dino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, I spoke about this 2 weeks ago. I asked some in-depth questions, and I'm getting to the crux of why this amendment is happening, and it has to do with Coronavirus CARES Act Action Plan Amendment. This deals with the fiscal year 2019 State of Missouri CARES Act Action Plan Amendment for Community Development Block Grant Program, and it's amendment number 4, which was issued by the federal government in December of 2021 for the reallocation of funding. Reallocation funding from public services and economic development to public facilities and infrastructure, and also corrects allocation of funding among community development and public service categories. And in this case, we have approximately $208,000 that was not used under Corona guidelines, Corona definitions, and the guidelines provided by the federal government when we had Corona back in 2019 that needs to be spent by December of this fiscal year, 2025. The Small Business Assistance Program, there was $50,000 that was not used for that function. No one qualifies for coronavirus needs or the CARES Act, and so that goes back into that $208,000. Rent assistance with mortgage or utilities or rent assistance with apartments, there was $8,200 that was left over and has not been spent, and that goes back to the $208,000. The one that really baffles me is the Mental Health Assistance Fund, which was $93,400, and that was through Compass Health. I don't know if you realize, but you're probably not going to believe me, but if you don't, ask people in public safety and ask our chief of police. Across our state of Missouri, we have people who have mental health crises. They are going to the emergency room to seek medical treatment, and because there are not enough beds in Missouri, there are not enough mental health crisis centers or hospitals. People are getting out of that field or providing that as a profession, and so we have a real mental health crisis in Missouri. And people are actually living in emergency rooms across our state for more than 2 years. And I heard testimony at our state capitol that we do have people that are living in emergency rooms for over 2 years, occupying emergency beds, waiting to get a bed somewhere across the state of Missouri for mental health, a mental health hospital. And that is very critical. That's very alarming. And I can't believe that Compass Health didn't expend the $93,400. So that goes into that $208,000 equation. And I give kudos to Ms. Thompson and to her staff for saving $105,000 of administrative costs and administrative salaries that goes back in that $208,000. That's being fiscal responsible and doing the right job. You rarely hear government saving administrative costs and salaries when it comes to these type of programs and these type of grants. And so $105,000 goes into that $208,000 that's left over. And so Ms. Thompson and her staff have thought that under the CARES Act, the Coronavirus CARES Act, that the weatherization program, which will be approximately $8,500 for each household, and so if you divide that by 208 households, you're looking at helping approximately, I guess that'd be 21 to 25 homes or families. And she claims that it will be $1 invested yielding $1.72 in energy-related savings. And her information comes from the Deputy Director of NECAC, Ms. Potts, up in Bowling Green, Missouri, which is a 12-county area for NECAC, which is provided through the Missouri Department of Social Services. They get a lot of funding for weatherization and homing-related issues to help senior citizens and disabled people. I would like to see this spent other ways, but the weatherization, I guess, is a good item to expend. I don't know if we have a waiting list or exactly if this is going to be spent before the term is up in December of 2024, but that's the definition of the program. I guess it's too late to offer up any suggestions of other ways. I did offer ways that we need to address. We need to address our homeless in St. Charles County. We need to address mental health crisis. We need to address Meals on Wheels program, and of course our transportation for senior citizens. It's desperately needed. Our county, St. Peters, O'Fallon, run out of that money within 3 to 4 months of the first fiscal year, and that doesn't carry those senior citizens who are going without those doctor visits, those medical attention visits, those prescription needs, and those other personal care needs. And we really need to address it as a aging county, an aging state, and an aging country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
The final speaker.
Seeing none, that will close our public hearing on that item as well. That moves us up to public comments. With public comments, people are free to speak for 3 minutes. After the 3-minute counter gets down to 0, I will thank you for speaking and invite the next speaker up. Our first speaker is
Stephen Fuller.
Yes, I'm Stephen Fuller. I live at 201 Willis Drive in St. Peters, and I have a little drainage problem with my neighbor. I'm in the unincorporated residential section of St. Charles County, and there's 5.6 acres behind me that was recently bought by a McBride, and he's planning on putting 43 homes on this 5.6 acres. Country Creek is the next subdivision over from this Fairmont Grove where he's building these 43 homes. And the water was coming off of Country Creek, heading down his property, and he took a pipe and plugged it into the Country Creek storm drain system, took it straight across his 5.6 acres and brought it within 10 feet of my property. There's also a holding pond that's going at the back of this property for water retention for his subdivision that he's building, but it's more for cosmetics and stuff, and that's already started draining off. And there's another pipe coming off that drainage property joining the Country Creek storm drain property, and all that's starting to flow across my property. Now, this 5-inch rainfall we had, it moved a lot of mud, moved a lot of debris. It actually canceled their project going on because the water coming off of Country Creek and coming off this 5.6 acres spread out and was covering like a 25-yard area where all the mud and water was flowing down onto my place. And then it takes like a 90-degree turn and cuts into my property. I have a ditch that in some spots is 6 feet deep and 10 feet wide, and I got pictures of that and a map of where all the water's flowing and stuff like that. I could present that to you, and I just don't know what to do, but he's causing a lot of personal property damage on my place because I can't get my tractor back in there to mow that one section of property anymore. The ditch is just too deep. Yeah, I just don't know what to do about it, so I thought I'd come here and talk to you people about it, see what can be done. Because this is the city of St. Peters doing this unincorporated 5.5 acres. Got taken to the city of St. Peters, and that's when he presented it to St. Peters' its plan.
I appreciate that. If you have documents, you can leave it with the ladies and they'll share it with us.
Okay, will do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Carol Douglas regarding the same topic.
Million gallons. I figured it out. 5 acres, 1 inch rainfall.
That's a lot.
Oh, okay.
Do we?
You can put them right there. Yeah.
They'll show up.
Go ahead.
Thank you for letting us speak here today. The biggest issue and concern that we have is this water damage washing away the back of his property. Steve owns about 3.5 acres. It's a wooded area between us and all of the building going on, but it's washing away. Sorry. He's also on a well system, and we're concerned about the water that's coming in. We have deer in the backyard, and they've been finding the dead fawns this year. something is going on with this water. And because Steve is in the St. Charles County, and this is the city now has annexed this McBride property, we asked the property manager if there was anything he could do, and he said, well, the city has approved it. And that was the only thing that they said. So I don't know if you can see this. This is the first drainage that they had. They ran across the entire property. This is the Country Creek. The drainage came out here. They have now dug and put it all the way across. Here's Steve's property. So this is already underwater from the rain that we had. Now they put in, this is coming off the holding pond, which they said is a dry pond. It's already full of water, and it's at least 6.5 feet deep. So he has 2 water sources coming from 2 subdivisions, and when that rain came, it shoots out across. And we're just asking, I don't know, if the county can come out, do some kind of water evaluation, some kind of help, and that's what he's looking for.
Real quick, I would start with Missouri Department of Natural Resources. They issued a permit for that work for land disturbance and erosion, so I would start with them too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Tamara Rucker, regarding tax foreclosure surplus claims.
Hello. Good evening, council members. My name is Tamara Rucker. I'm a licensed private investigator and registered air finder, and the founder of Record Recovery, an agency that assists Missouri residents in recovering tax foreclosure surplus funds. I'm here tonight to respectfully urge the council to implement an internal timeline for processing and disbursement of surplus claims once the statutory 90-day waiting period has passed. Many of the individuals I serve are elderly, disabled, and grieving the loss of a loved one. They've lost their homes, often unknowingly due to unpaid taxes, and only discovering after it's too late for redemption that they may be entitled to surplus proceeds. In some cases, they don't even find out until a year or 2 after the funds become available, and if they don't claim it within 3 years, those funds escheat to the county and are lost forever. This is not just about missed deadlines. It's about missed chances to restore wealth to families who are already hurting. What's even more painful is the delay that occurs after claims have been properly submitted. Even when someone has gone through probate, proven their 100% entitlement, and there are no competing claims or liens, they're often left waiting with no clear way to follow up, no meaningful updates, and no accountability. There's no channels to escalate the issue beyond the collector's office. I'm asking the council to create a firm internal policy. Once the 90-day period has ended, claims should be reviewed and paid within 30 days. These families have already lost enough. They should not be kept in limbo for months after fulfilling every claim requirement. Let's ensure that the surplus process for the people is meant to serve. Let's build on structure, accountability, and compassion. And thank you for your time and for considering this step towards protecting some of St. Charles County's most vulnerable residents.
Thank you.
Arnie Dienoff, regarding the consent agenda, parks, contracts, and bids.
Thank you very much, members of the council. I first want to bring to your attention, tomorrow will be the special General Assembly session of the Missouri House of Representatives after the Senate passed last week, Wednesday, Senate Bill 1, Senate Bill 3, and Senate Bill 4. $3.5 to $4 billion stadium construction, rehabilitation of Arrowhead Stadium, a practice facility, and a new Royal Stadium in Clay County will cost our taxpayers, and we will get little to no benefit here in St. Charles County. I ask that you contact our legislators to vote no. Also, as on the proposal, is a $600 million to $800 million streetcar bridge installation to move people from Kansas City to Clay County for the Royals games. I ask that this corporate welfare be stripped out of Senate Bill 3. This bill also freezes asset upon vote by our county residents, 97 counties across Missouri, including St. Charles County.
Mr. Dean, can you hang on? Can you stop the timer?
Sure.
With all due respect, Arnie, we can't do anything on state politics. Can you stay to what county issues?
I'm just asking you to contact our state legislators.
Okay. Can we move on to county stuff? And I get the whole Royals Chiefs thing. I'm with you. But can we stay to county stuff?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, first of all on your agenda is the court elevators. I didn't know we had 3 elevators. I just know of 2. But I see no problems and have no issues using those elevators. I use them all the time. And for us to spend $950,000 in redesigning or reworking these already existing elevators just makes no sense. So I ask that you take that off the consent agenda and talk about that. Spring Bend Park, I must have been asleep at the wheel. I didn't even know we owned this 100-acre park. And for us to spend in phase 1 $3.9 million, are we building a castle? And are we going to have golden concrete roads in this park? So it just doesn't make too much sense. And also what doesn't make sense is that we're utilizing a St. Louis County company, not a local contract. We're not having local impact on this project, but the $3.9 million is going to a South St. Louis County construction firm instead of giving it to a St. Peter's firm, which is AME Construction, and a Wenzel firm, Demeen Construction. Just makes no sense why we're not taking care of our own right here in our own county. And again, from the Parks Director on our flock cameras, which I agree with. I think they're intrusion of our privacy, but to keep down crime, the reoccurring annual fee, $66,000 for 20 cameras, seems like a total ripoff to me. And so I'd like the council members to ask Mr. Graham, our Director of Parks, some very important needed questions. And especially ask Mr. Graham why on Lindenwood Park storm damage roof replacement, why we're spending $1.465 million, it's almost $1.5 million on a roof replacement. I get it, it's historic and it has needs and conditions and a way to make you understanding. Mr. Swanson, I know, I got about 30 seconds, I believe.
You actually went over, but
can I have 10 seconds?
That was my fault. I'll give you 10. How's that? That's probably the nicest thing I've ever done in the entire time I've been chair with you.
There you go. We all need to get along.
There you go.
So if we can ask about the consent agenda, make sure we're spending our money wisely. The $16 million on emergency radios, again, let's wait till interest rates come down. It's not an emergency necessity. And the full-time officers, there's no fiscal impact. And finally, on bill number 53.
Arnie, I was nice enough to give you the 10, and you're taking me
if we're given fee break, let's give it to all our political jurisdictions, whether the schools or anybody. So.
Well
Final
done.
speaker.
All right. Thank you very much. So that wraps up public comments. I'm assuming since the county executive isn't here, we're not going to do an oral report?
No, sir.
But I would like to take this opportunity, unless you would like to do it.
No, please.
To welcome your new coworker, our new Assistant Director of Administration. I keep wanting to call you Captain, but I guess I should just call you Rob Wiley, who is our new Assistant Director of Administration. This is your first meeting. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome aboard.
I appreciate it. Excited to be here.
You want to say anything about who you are and your history?
I'll take 10 seconds.
Is that an Arnie 10 seconds? There you go.
Most of my service to the county was in the fire service. Did 30 years in the fire service and retired as the chief of the Cotterville Fire District. After that, for the last 9 years, I've been working with the St. Charles County Police Department as a training and logistics specialist for the Special Operations Group.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
There you go. That moves us on to the consent agenda. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda, Mr. Swanson?
Yes, to remove Parks, Linwood Park storm damage roof repair.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is removed. Anything else?
Okay, I would like to propose that we pass the remainder of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved. Mr. Swanson.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Brazel is out of town currently, and he wanted to discuss this more at length. I've already talked to Director Graham about it, and I am asking it to be tabled to the June 30th meeting.
Any opposition?
I'll second that.
It is on the table. Items to be removed from the consent agenda. Any items to be taken on the no parking at the convention center? Are we going to leave that on the table?
I thought we were going to come back with a revised consent item.
So you just so we're clear, any items that are on the consent agenda cannot be amended. Any items on the consent agenda can only be voted up or down. So with that, I would make a motion to remove that from the consent agenda and put it back on the table.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Since I am the chair, I should actually note this, but you can't discuss something while it's on the table, while it's not currently here. So, as I just said, if something's on the consent agenda, what that means is the county executive's office has already looked at this and said, we're good with this as it sits. So the county executive, in essence, is foregoing his veto power on that particular item. The council at that point has the option to either vote it up or vote it down, but you cannot amend it, because if you amend it, that does not give the county executive the opportunity to veto that on your amended changes. So with that item being on there, I would open this for discussion.
I just think we can get a better resolution than what this item presents. So
I was fairly unclear the last time about what the residents really wanted. Okay, there were certain things that I think the police basically said had to happen with the no parking on a certain side of the street.
Right.
But then there were other things that, especially the wordage or the verbiage of the signs that were being put up. So, that uncertainty and unclarity kind of put me in a position where I'm not quite sure what the residents really want.
Mr. Levy.
So if I could give a little bit of clarity to this, there's actually two pieces of this issue that we're looking at right now. One was originally brought with the petitioners a year ago when they came before the council and talked about the event parking. As a result of that petition, Mr. Lyons took a look at the subdivision and he identified some streets that were too narrow for emergency access. The bill that you have in front of you right now addresses that issue and that issue only. This is not a debate about event parking or what different scenarios we can put in place to deal with that. This is strictly an emergency vehicle access bill that you're looking at right now. So when you talk about how we're going to address what the residents wanted in terms of event parking and things like that, that's a completely different discussion. So we still need to have that discussion, and most likely needs to be addressed through new legislation before you.
Correct. Yes, sir.
If I may, so with all that being said, I think that means this doesn't have the clarity that we all want. Councilwoman York obviously isn't here, but she's listening in. I think, in my opinion, vote it down, and let's move on, come up with something better that's brought back to us. That's where I'm standing on it.
The only question I would, John, can you come up here real quick? The only question I have about this is, when I was talking with Captain Hunt, one of the things that came up was they had to have something there to enforce. So the signs are currently there, to Director Ludwig's point, they are currently there. So if we vote this down, are you going to have to go remove those signs?
Yes, I'll have to remove those signs, and then there won't be no parking in those zones. So if people park there, then you'll have emergency vehicle access issues.
Right. So that being the case, my understanding is we could approve this the way it is. The safety issue that we're talking about is addressed, but we can go back and take a second bite of the apple to work with the residents to get a more encompassed solution that we can bring through as an ordinance that we can pass. But in the meantime, law enforcement has a vehicle that they can use to enforce no parking in the street in the event that there is an event that is bleeding into there. They at least have some sort of enforcement. If not, and I understand the residents wanted more, if we vote this down, they have nothing. and we have nothing to be able to enforce, if I'm understanding the way that we talked about this at the last meeting. So my request would be for us to pass this and then come back and look at an ordinance that will address the broader issue.
I didn't think that the residents wanted parking restricted at all times, though. That's my understanding from when the residents spoke.
So, yes, that's correct.
If I can...
At least some of them don't. But they keep raising the issue of what happens with emergency vehicle access, which I would argue, in order to maintain emergency vehicle access, the areas we identified need to be no parking all the time, regardless of whether there's an event going on. If a resident parks across from another car in these zones, emergency vehicles aren't getting through, even if it's just 2 cars. Or depending on the street, 1 car.
The street's too narrow then.
Because the street's too narrow. In these areas that we selected, it doesn't matter if there's an event going on or if it's just residents. If there's too many vehicles in that spot, emergency vehicle can't fit. So if they're truly concerned about safety, they should want these no parking zones to stay, and then event parking issues to be addressed with additional signage elsewhere.
Councilwoman York, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thanks for clarifying all this, and I agree with Mr. Elam. There's really 2 issues here. Everyone came forward, complained about the emergency situation. We looked at that and said, yes, there are instances where no emergency equipment can get through here. So that's one thing we have to take care of. The other thing is the events and how that encroaches on the area. That is a totally separate issue anymore. They kind of fall in together, but I agree that we really need to take care of the emergency. This is the one that everyone came up and said, we are not addressing. Now we need to address where are those areas that you can't get 2 cars. You can't even get 1 car in there if people are parking. So we need to keep those no parking signs there. They are actually temporary signs until we come up with the final decision on what we're going to do with the whole area. Do we want 8 blocks of no event parking? Do we want 3 blocks of no event parking? There's a lot of issues that we need to do on the event issues, but I think the emergency issue is the first one we need to deal with.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If I may, Director Lyons, how long do you have permission to put up temporary signs? How many days?
120.
120. How many days are we at currently?
Probably 60. They've been, maybe not quite 60. They've been up for at least a month and a half.
All right,
though,
so we still have plenty of time. He can keep the signs there until we figure out a solution to this, because what I'm worried about, if you're going to institute no parking on narrow streets, have you looked at all the narrow streets we have in St. Charles unincorporated that would need signs put up? Because this would set a precedent that we're going to go through. And you know what? I lived in St. Charles Hills, and those streets aren't wide enough. It would have to be no parking. We're opening up a can of worms we better be very careful with here, because if we're going to do this for one subdivision, are we going to then do it for all the narrow streets we have in unincorporated?
But I believe that this only gets addressed when the residents requested, which they did over a year ago.
Right. Well, just stated, though, that this is an emergency issue, that this isn't anything to deal with residents complaining. This is an emergency vehicle issue.
But it only got on the radar because they requested it. Well, to be clear to your point that you just brought up on slippery slope, and I get you, but this is an issue that the residents brought forward. They didn't go looking for it. So to your point, in theory, I guess, they could go. John doesn't have the staff to go do that. So first of all, that's not going to happen. This is something the residents have been requesting for over a year. We can vote it up or vote it down, but I would just like to make a move on it today. If you guys don't want to, you can overrule me. But I would like to act on this part of it, and then if you want to go for a bigger solution, we can go for a bigger solution later. So, any other questions for John?
And it was, if you see on the agenda, this is a petition that was signed by quite a few of the residents in the area saying they wanted no parking for emergency situations. And that's what I think we need to deal with first.
And that was the point I was actually going to bring up, was it was on our radar because it was a petition that was ran through the petition process for a change in signage. So it followed our normal procedures for residents requesting additional signage. To your point, no one else has petitioned for this elsewhere. So
I agree. I think we should go ahead and pass.
Will you be bringing another item on the next council to the part 2 of this bill?
Well, I guess we need to have a discussion about what everyone wants at that point, because when the residents came up here, they all had some different ideas of how they wanted things to look. And I mean, I need PD's input about, how they want to enforce things. And I mean, it wouldn't just be me. I think there needs to be a discussion.
I think Councilwoman York is going to spearhead that one since it's in her district. So I would refer you to her for that discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the current item.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
nay. And motion passes. Thank you very much, John. Thanks for your time. That moves us to Resolution 2507.
Resolution number 2507, sponsored by council as a whole. A resolution adopting the St. Louis Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 through 2030.
Any questions or comments on this resolution? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Resolution number 2507, sponsored by council as a whole, a resolution adopting the St. Louis Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025 through 2030. Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel? Councilman Hammond?
Yes.
Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilwoman York?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Resolution 2507 is approved. That brings us to bills for final passage. Before we get to that, I would like to clear up some confusion that we had at the previous meeting. So we thought, we being the group here, no individuals. So we thought that you had, normally when a bill gets introduced, it has to be, you have to have 10 days before you can vote on it. Which is why when we get into our December meetings, we move from the second and last meeting to the first and third. And the last meeting that we have of November, anything that gets introduced, we have to wait to the second meeting to pass it because we don't have 10 days. The confusion was, we thought it was 10 business days. It turns out it is 10 calendar days once the attorney went back in and looked at it and clarified that. So what that means is bills that we thought we were going to have to hang over until the 30th to be able to pass, we can address and we can pass tonight because it was more than 10 calendar days since the previous meeting. And the previous meeting, because of the Monday holiday, got moved to a Tuesday, which got us to the situation that we're at now. Confused? You won't be after the next episode of Soap. So, if you're old enough, you remember that. That brings us to our first bill for final passage, which is Bill 5391.
Bill number 5391, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat for Westward Manor Plat 2, re-subdivision of Lot 69 at 75 Knoll Court.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5391, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat for Westward Manor Plat 2, re-subdivision of Lot 69 at 75 Knoll Court. Councilman Brazel? Councilman Hammond?
Yes.
Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Yes.
Councilwoman York?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Swanson?
Yes, ma'am.
Bill 5391 passes. Thank you for coming in. Sorry for the confusion. That brings us to Bill 5392.
Bill number 5392, an ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and one, approving the 2025 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal year 2021 through 2025, under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the action plan, and two, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2025 annual action plan.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Rain from heaven. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5392, an ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and 1, approving the 2025 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal year 2021 through 2025, under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the action plan, and 2, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2025 annual action plan. Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilwoman York.
Yes.
Councilman Baker.
Yes.
Councilman Swanson.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel.
Bill 5392 passes. That brings us to 5293.
Bill number 5393, an ordinance authorizing the amendment of the St. Louis Home Consortium Consolidated Plan 2016 through 2020 and amending the 2019 Annual Action Plan for St. Charles County, Missouri in its capacity as an urban county under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and 2, authorizing the county executive to execute all related documents, certifications, and contracts.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Bill number 5393, an ordinance, 1, authorizing the amendment of the St. Louis Home Consortium Consolidated Plan 2016 through 2020 and amending the 2019 Annual Action Plan for St. Charles County, Missouri in its capacity as an urban county under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and 2, authorizing the county executive to execute all related documents, certifications, and contracts. Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilwoman York.
Yes.
Councilman Baker.
Yes.
Councilman Swanson.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel. Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Bill 5393 passes. That brings us to Bill 5394.
Bill number 5394, an ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of special obligation bonds, Series 2025, emergency communications projects of St. Charles County, Missouri, and approving certain documents and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith.
I would like
Motion to table.
Okay. I'll read it. I'd like to make a motion to table Bill 5394 at the request of the Finance Department for advertising and pricing of the bonds.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any?
Aye.
The bill is tabled. I don't know that I've ever had applause for tabling a bill. That's awesome. Let's go to bills for introduction, starting with Bill 5395.
Bill 5395, requested by Mike Hurlburt, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District per application RZ 2504.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, that moves us to 5396.
Bill number 5396, requested by Mike Hurlburt, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 25-05.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, 5397.
Bill number 5397, requested by Chief Kurt Fries, sponsored by Mike Elam, an ordinance amending the 2025 budget adopted in Ordinance 24-106 to add 2 full-time police officers for Dardine Prairie Police Services pursuant to the intergovernmental agreement, and to modify the police department's current budget to transfer 3 positions from one bureau to another to reflect the department's current organizational structure.
Any questions or comments about this bill? 2 more in Dardine Prairie, huh, Chief? I'll tell my family to slow down. That brings us to 5398.
Bill number 5398, requested by Mike Summer, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance waiving certain fees for recycling and building permits for the New Melle Fire Protection District to assist the fire department with the construction of the New Melle Fire District Station number 2 to be located at 3719 Highway D.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, that will wrap us up for bills for introduction. I'm not aware of any action to be tabled on any of the table bills. Anyone? That brings us to announcements and miscellaneous. Any announcements, or Mr. Baker?
Yeah, as I'm sure we all know, we went through a significant rain event that seems to be happening frequently. And I also know that we as a council body met and talked about work sessions. I'd like to revisit that, and I'd like to have a work session where we talk about stormwater. We have to do something. I mean, we can't just sit here and ignore the problems that we have around our county. I mean, these folks are probably going to be coming back to us after the development, talking about how bad they're flooded. I mean, we need to, as a body, talk about where we go instead of sitting around saying it's a private issue when a lot of these I'm looking at, and in fact, I saw one in your district today, Mr. Hollander. It's bad engineering. It's bad jurisdiction by the county. We need to do something. So I would like to revisit the work sessions and start implementing those. So that's my comment.
Any other questions or comments?
Sunday's Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to everybody.
Exactly.
And for those who are going to be at the Cottleville Weldon Spring Chamber tomorrow, Chief Kurt Frizz is going to be our guest speaker, so looking forward to that. With that, I would entertain a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming.
Aye.
You can go home.